Hey guys, Al here, vitalizedseed.com. I hope everybody's having a good day. So we talk a lot about soil health and plant health, and I'm actually reading a book right now that's all about the in-depth plant health and the xylem and the phloem, and it's really intense. And quite honestly, some of it's way over my head from the chemistry side, but it's interesting if nothing else. And it got me thinking about some of the stuff we probably learned back in high school or maybe even eighth grade. About how plants function. But for most of us, including myself, it had been a while since we really looked at like what makes a plant take up nutrients, and then also why is we use the word synergistic. Why are these synergistic relationships in the soil and to the plant, and from the plant back to the soil, so critical? So this is going to be very high level, but I wanted to highlight two things. So the xylem, the xylem is what supports. So these are both vascular systems within the plant, and the xylem, at high level, it supports water and mineral flow from the soil and the roots up to and through the plant. It's a one-way system, as you see in the diagram behind me. The phloem is going to be it's going to be transporting organic nutrients. It's a byproduct after photosynthesis occurs. So that's going to be transporting things like sugars and other organic nutrients into the roots, into the leaves, etc. So think of that byproduct we often talk about root exudation. You need that to occur. Now, a thing that we often talk about is AMF, or mycorrhizal fungi. And AMF is really, really critical if you want to focus on long-term soil health goals, soil stable aggregation, soil structure, nutrient solubility so that plants can uptake, etc. And this diagram shows a nice job of a plant with versus without AMF. I always like to say it extends the root mass significantly because it actually is going into the root structure. But it also is going to help to reduce the stress of the plant. And some of that is because it's aiding those two systems we just talked about. One, it's going to help the xylem because the xylem's looking to take up, again, from the soil solution, the water solution, that water into the plant through the root system. And how is it going to do that? Well, if you have a strong mycorrhizal network and you have good soil structure because of the formation of glomalin and things from that mycorrhizal network, those plants are then able to access water and nutrients easier. So that's one of the ways that you can have them be quite a bit healthier. There's still a lot to be learned about the total interaction of the phloem into the mycorrhizal network and back, but we do have quite a bit of a decent understanding through a lot of the literature out there that talks about how root exudation is feeding mycorrhizal fungi, and there's an exchange occurring, and how that's happening in order to drive the reduction of needs for inputs. Again, not just focusing on, hey, we need to build organic matter. There's this huge biological mass underneath the ground that really needs to be the focus, and organic matter increases is just simply a byproduct of those things. But obviously, that would help the phloem be able to uptake a lot of those nutrients in exchange for some of the sugars. Here's an example of kind of what the Vitalized One2 system looks like right now. This is just a generic piece I pulled off the internet, but you can see where you have all these varying root structures. Now imagine if you have a good mycorrhizal fungi network here, and all these plants have their phloem and their xylem, and they're doing their thing, right? They're translocating nutrients, they're getting them into the plant, they're trying to grow as fast and healthy as they can, and now you're solubilizing all these nutrients throughout the soil profile at all different levels, because you have this really robust mycorrhizal network. And that's really what we're trying to do. And we do reduce our mycorrhizal network when we rely heavily on tillage, rely heavily on glyphosate, rely heavily on fertilization, right? So the one common example is like phosphorus. Mycorrhizal fungi does a really good job at solubilizing phosphorus and making that available for the plants. And there's a lot of science that says most of our soils have an adequate amount of phosphorus. We just need biology to make it available. However, if you put too much phosphorus down, say in step one, right? I was just listening to a gentleman yesterday who talked about this. He said sometimes they'll run into low phosphorus soils, but he actually wants people to stage that application. Now this was for growing crops for yield, but the reason he wanted to stage it is because if you throw all that phosphorus down at once, you really reduce the ability for phosphorus to be uptaken because you reduce your biological activity that's going to solubilize that phosphorus. Because why would it work to solubilize something that there's an abundance of? Which seems a little bit counterintuitive, but we see this a lot with a lot of plants. If you fertilize legumes too much, they won't fix, and things like that. So keep that in mind. But all in all, I thought it was really cool to understand, the xylem and the phloem are two areas of the plants that are really, well, one, they need each other in order to make the plant really healthy, right? Without the xylem, the phloem wouldn't be able to have successful photosynthesis and all the raw materials, if you will, in order for that to happen, and vice versa. So you wouldn't have healthy root structure and healthy communication without the phloem putting those back into the different parts of the plant, leaves, roots, etc. And then, of course, how does that all interchange, and why do we talk so much at Vitalized Seed about synergistic relationships and the importance of trying to wrap your mind around how this works? And that is through mycorrhizal fungi and other biology below our feet. There's so much to still learn, but hopefully you all found that interesting. I know I certainly am loving diving in more and more and more into a lot of these topics. So if you do like this stuff, please share, subscribe, and follow along, guys. And please leave a comment. We always appreciate it. Or reach out to us at vitalizedseed.com to contact us page. Thank you so much for following along. I hope you have a safe and enjoyable day.